I'm here with Michael Mehary of the law firm of Curtis, Vasile, Mehary, and Dorry. Today is November 25th, 2024. We're located at the firm's office at 2174 Hewlett Avenue in Merrick, New York. And the subject of our discussion is the history and current practices of the law firm of Curtis, Vasile, Mehary, and Dorry. Thanks for joining me, Mike. I appreciate it.
Good evening.
And so can you give us a brief history of the firm?
Well, it started in the 50s, I believe. Reed Curtis had gone to law school in Florida and made his way up to New York City and was doing insurance defense work and moved to and opened up an office in Merrick, where we are now, and started his practice. And he took on some more partners, and they became they were like a leader in the industry because there weren't a lot of so-called defense firms at the time. It was more like a general practice firm that would also do some defense work for a client, for State Farm, let's say, or something like that. But what Curtis and his partners at the time did was specialize in catering to all the insurance companies and the self-insured entities like the Long Island Railroad, the Nassau County, Suffolk County, various towns on the island, and so forth. And the firm got, with the original partners, they were best known as Curtis Hart and Zach Lekevich, and Hart became actually first a state court judge and then an appellate court judge. But at the time, they brought in a couple of young partners, Vasile, Devine, and then McElhenney. And those guys kind of like picked up, they were like the next generation, and they picked up, let's say, in the early 80s. They picked up from these guys were now in, let's say, their 50s, 60s, 70s. And then they kind of modernized the firm, and that included expanding the firm. At one point, we had, when I started here in the mid 80s, we had, let's say, like seven attorneys, give or take. And by the time within the next decade or two, we had over 20 attorneys. But then we contracted, and there was a point in time where Curtis had died, Zach Lekevich had left, and it was the big three, Vasile, Devine, and McElhenney. I was a partner in name. I was not an equity partner. One of the tricks law firms do is they make a lot of partners, and then they can bill at a partner rate, but the attorney who's the partner doesn't get paid the same as the equity partners. But anyway, be that as it may, but there was a large upset in the firm when two of the three major partners left. In my opinion, they had been planning their departure for a couple of years, and they were grooming the accounts to go with them, and they left. So we kind of had to start over again with Vasile, myself, and a couple of other guys, and then we started to build it up again. But we found that it worked better when we were smaller. Okay. And then Dominic and Roy died in the same year, leaving me and Mike. And again, we found it worked better when we remained smaller, and here we are.
And by Roy and Dominic, you're referring to Dominic Piccinini and Roy Vasile.
Correct.
And Vasile was a named partner.
Yes.
And so now, with your tenureship and leadership in the firm, it's now Curtis, Vasile, Mehary, and Dorry, correct?
Right. And it was that before Roy died, it was actually his idea. And it's almost, he died suddenly and unexpectedly, but it was almost like he saw that coming because he made us do that right before he died.
And when did you become a partner?
I became a partner in 96.
Okay. So you've been here as a partner from 1996 to the present?
Correct.
Oh. And what's the geography of the firm?
Meaning
where does it work? Where does the clients that the firm handles?
When I started here, I would say that most of the work we got was on Long Island. Now, understand too, and that at the time there weren't a lot of defense firms on Long Island. There were some. So we had a good chunk of the business, but more and more firms developed on Long Island and got more and more of the, quote, Long Island business, which caused us, the insurance companies knew us, so they would give us their cases in Queens and Brooklyn and Manhattan. And those are usually higher exposure cases and they're tougher cases, but we were good lawyers, so we would take them. So we would cover basically the metropolitan area, heavily in Nassau and Suffolk, and heavily in Queens, and then not so much as heavily, but some cases in Brooklyn and Manhattan, a few in the Bronx, a few in Westchester, and that's about it. A couple here and there, but
And over the years, can you describe your role changes as a partner from then to now?
okay. So as a partner, when I started, they called me the managing partner. Now it sounds like an important thing, but really, that means that they gave all the scut work to me. Like I'd have to harass the secretaries to do this, or to make sure that certain paperwork got filed with health insurance, or a lot of hassle stuff that they didn't really want to deal with. I would come up with an idea like, from now on we're going to use this form instead of that form because it was a better form in my opinion, and they would be like, you're not telling us what to do. So it really was a title, but it wasn't that important. But then I became more important just as my experience continued, and now I am the president of the firm.
Okay. And how is you? And so, what does that entail now?
Well, I'm the most experienced attorney here. I've been here for 41 years this month, and I'm the boss.
And that entails everything, right?
That entails everything.
And you have more responsibility, more role. You wear all the hats.
I wear all the hats. Now, we also have a good office staff, so a lot of the stuff they can handle without me needing to do it, in terms of like insurance and covering the overhead and stuff like that.
And how many employees would you say you currently have?
Currently, we only have me and my partner. We have a part-time attorney and two part-time secretaries and a part-time billing clerk.
And that's reduced from prior years, correct?
Yes. I mean, at some points we had probably 20 staff people.
And has that assisted the firm in any manner, being smaller?
Over time it has. I have found that we're more profitable now because we have much less overhead, no health insurance because my partner, all the remaining employees have spouses who have health insurance, and the only one who doesn't, she's on Medicare, and so the overhead has been reduced significantly. We're in smaller quarters, and I have found, to our surprise, that we actually make more money.
And what type of clients does the firm represent?
Well, traditionally, we've always represented insurance companies, and besides insurance companies, we had a heavy presence with self-insured entities like towns, town of Brookhaven, town of Huntington, and Islip, and villages. We had Village of Rockville Center, and municipalities like the County of Nassau, the County of Suffolk. What happens with these kind of municipal entities is sometimes they come and go, and but we've had a lot of them over time, and I try to do work outside of the insurance companies also. So I'll take on private clients to do some real estate litigation and business deals and things like that.
It sounds to me you're talking about politics in some of the municipalities.
Oh, absolutely. That has something to do with that has something to do with it. In my opinion, there's no doubt that you had to pay to play, and we didn't really pay, so we didn't get as much play as we used to.
Okay. And so one of the articles that I've read as part of the course I'm taking describes a successful entrepreneur as someone that provides a unique service or improves on a unique service or brings a service at a lesser cost. Can you describe any ways that your firm might accomplish something like that?
Well, I think that we do all three of those things. Certainly, our firm provides a service at a lesser cost because of the reduced overhead. These offices are reasonably comfortable, but they're not these palatial places that we're paying for. So I think we do provide service at a lesser cost, and also because, I know every file that crosses my desk, I know. So if there's a problem, they get me on the phone, I could fix it.
With instant recall.
Well, I at least I know the file. I'm familiar with it, and it helps. And that's also, instead of having like 500 files where you just can't keep track of everything, I can keep track. I remember things.
And another article I reviewed was the traditional defense model. The traditional defense firms have become smaller and more streamlined due to several reasons: in-house counsel, as well as a very heavy-handed reduction of costs Have you seen something? Have you seen that kind of impact on your firm?
We've definitely seen that kind of impact, but also there are so many defense firms now, you know, and they're not all necessarily like we were a pretty big firm, and there were other big firms. Rifkin Radler comes to mind. They became huge. Lewis Joes. But then you had the Montford Healy's and the Kelly Rhodes and those kind of firms, more the mid-sized firms. But now there's so many defense firms out there that that reduces the amount of pie that's available for a firm like ours to have. So we have to specialize on doing our job well, and we do, or at least we try.
So would you say you found a niche in this market?
Absolutely found a niche. Absolutely, no doubt about it.
And could you describe that a little? What the niche you would say? How would you describe your niche in the market?
Our niche is more of a go-to firm. Like Chubb Insurance Company, for example, is a huge insurance company that prides itself as being a high-end insurer. They have heavy requirements for the people to be on their panel, like our firm, and we had to fill out this like 40-page form a while back, just talking, like answering all these different questions. But the reason why they keep us as opposed to a more named firm is that we get the job done. They know where they can send the headache cases to, and they send them to us. And it's
that's good.
It's a headache sometimes, but yes, it also creates a niche. They know they can call. Allstate even told me this one time. Is like they called us at like 6:00 at night. We pick up the phone, and I had to go to court for them the next day. And she told me, she said, I knew I'd get one of you guys on the phone, and I knew you'd do it for me, and we did.
And so as time has changed, and as the I guess the measure or the market of the firms have changed, has your firm been able to change your behavior and adapt to the changing role required for your firm?
Yeah, we've had no choice. I mean, they want expenses reduced, so we have to figure out ways to reduce expenses or to bill less or to bill more economical, and we just do it.
And have the changes in the defense industry enabled you to better service not only your claims customers but your clients themselves?
I would say that, for one thing, would be like technology, with email, and you can accomplish so much now. Being able to send someone a quick email or send photographs to your client and say, hey, take a look at these photographs. Tell me what you think. Show me where the accident happened. Show me where the guy was standing when the paint barrel fell off and hit him in the head. In the old days, you'd have to send the stuff by mail, and you'd wait 2 weeks, and the guy would finally get it, and he'd maybe call you back. Technology has definitely helped us become more efficient, which the clients obviously appreciate.
So as a small firm, technology has assisted.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Can you give some other technologies that have helped?
Well, also, like for example, in the old days, I used to have a dictation machine with a cassette, and I would dictate all my reports were dictated onto that cassette, and then I'd have to wait like 2 weeks or a week or two for the secretary to type it. She'd have to put it in her machine and listen to it. Now I can use my telephone, my iPhone, and dictate quick reports. I could dictate long ones too, but I don't like using it for long ones. But I could dictate even a medium-sized report and email it to myself, and I can get it to my client in, like today I had a conference call on a complicated case at 2:00, and I spent a couple of hours reviewing the file, and in doing so, I learned some real important things that I needed to bring to the attention of the claims adjuster. But instead of, you have a phone call with someone, you forget about things, you talk about different things, I was able to bullet point stuff, dictate it to my phone, shot it to her 7 minutes before the conference. She read it, and it made everything move a lot more productive and more informative.
Okay. And now getting back to this idea about the service or the customer service you're providing, would you say then, from what I'm hearing, is you're saying it's a little more hands-on and personal?
Absolutely. There's no doubt that it's more hands-on and personal. And the same thing happens with the actual clients. In the old days, you would call up a phone number and you'd get the answering machine, so you'd send them a letter, and you never hear from them now. Like I do a lot of stuff with texting because I know the younger clients, they don't even know how to, they don't even read letters, they don't know how to address letters, they don't check their mailbox. So if I have a younger client and I see a phone number, I'll just text him, and say, hey, can I talk to you this afternoon, and he'll get back to me. Whereas if I mailed them a letter or even called up and left them a message, people don't even check their voicemails at times these days.
Does that make it easier for you as the attorney?
It makes it easier for me as the attorney, but it also makes it easier for the client because I'm practicing the way they want. I also have some old-fashioned clients that prefer that I mail them a letter that they can physically hold in their hand that has my address on it and my name and my phone number on it, and they appreciate that.
And has the technology assisted you with research?
Oh, absolutely. It's so much better now than it used to be. When I started, I'd have to look in a book, and you check like head notes, and it would maybe cite a case, and you go look at that one, and you would do the shepherdizing where you look at a different book, and it would list the cases that the case was cited on. Then you'd have to go to each book and pull it out. Some of the cases were applicable, some not. Now you can, and then when they started to do it on the computer, it was kind of slow. Now it moves real fast. I can bang through that. I can blow through that research. And you find the stuff. You can find almost anything you want, either in the case law or you can find information on the internet that can be very helpful.
And that is that translate for productivity, both in terms of your time and costs?
Absolutely. And here's an example. We think about legal research that we do, but maybe I'm dealing with a guy who has a construction accident and they're using these terms that I don't know what they mean, and I don't know how this contraption works. Like certain types of scaffolding equipment has certain names, and you can go on the internet, you can watch pictures, you can see how they get set up, you can see how an accident could happen if it wasn't done properly or if they didn't put a brace in a certain place, and you can see all this, and then you can become a lot more productive, and you can do a better job for your client, both the insurance company and the company that you're doing the work for.
And we talked about a little of this idea. We were talking before about this idea of shoe leather. And an article I read talked about shoe leather, meaning the effort you go to do something or accomplish a task. How would you describe that in terms of, the practice of law now? Has shoe leather or spent shoe leather changed over the years?
I think that from my vantage point that I spend less shoe leather because I can find things on the internet. I can see how an important thing is to go to the scene of an accident and to see what it looks like there and what the surroundings look like and how high the curb is or whatever is applicable. But it is so helpful to be able to pull up a picture of the intersection on the internet without having to drive 2 hours out to like Southampton, let's say, where the accident happened. So I don't think I use as much shoe leather as I used to because of technology.
But technology allows you to give more input or more attention to things, correct?
That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct.
How about court appearances? Has that changed in terms of shoe leather?
Yes. Well, two things. You have COVID, and then that caused courts to allow not to allow, to force you to use Zoom and make video appearances in court. It is so inefficient for me, who live in Suffolk County, to make my way into Brooklyn and to walk into a courtroom and to have a judge tell me, "Oh, that case has been adjourned until January 1st or 15th," or to say, "Oh, hi, Mike, Mr. Mehary, how are you, counselor? Okay, so what do you guys have to do? Judge, we have 2 more depositions left. Okay, fine." That I've just killed 5 hours to do that. Whereas, even if I have to sit for a half an hour for the judge to call my case, first off, I could do some work while I'm sitting there for the judge to call my case. But then I don't have to. Then you can say, "All right, now we're ready for Mr. Mehary's case," and say, "What do you guys got to do?" And we can say, "Well, we got 2 depositions left. Okay, thanks. We'll see you in a month or 2."
And is there any type of cyclical economic impact you've seen on the firm?
Over the years, doing this for 40 years, I've noticed, and I can't explain why, that when things are great, when the economy is doing great, we seem not to be doing that well. And then when there's a downturn, an economic downturn, and is that we seem to be doing pretty good. And people say that, well, when the economy gets bad, then more people sue. And I think that's true to some degree, but I don't know I don't know what else it is. It's hard to explain, or maybe it's just a lagging effect. And you know, I'm making average money for me, let's say, but everyone else is doing great, and now the economy stinks, but I'm still making average money, so it looks like I'm doing good. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
And how about any type of economic forces, weather or economic things that would impact the firm's economics?
Well, there's no doubt that weather influences the amount of accidents. More people fall in parking lots or on sidewalks during snowstorms, and I have noticed that it, like, if there's a bad winter, the next year or two we get more slip and fall cases, and the same thing could be said for car accidents. You know, on lousy, icy roads or whatever. There's no doubt about that.
And good weather then on the flip side would not bring about as many cases.
No, but then again, they're out there doing some stupid things when the weather's nice. So, you know, and maybe that's why it isn't all just because of one thing, but it's a little of everything.
Okay, so you're saying it's not all or nothing.
It's not. It's like, definitely not all or nothing.
And how about is there any economic impact with regard to case flow from the insurance companies, whether positive or negative? Is there anything you see that would impact how insurance companies send work?
Well, there definitely is, and again, it's all complicated. But there have been talk about cycles. There have been times where it's the insurance companies. They all decide like it's going to be more economically better if we keep the work in house, so they don't give it to us outside counsel, and then it flip flops, and then all of a sudden they want to give it to the outside counsel, and I don't know why the insurance companies do this, but I'm sure the economy influences them to decide either to increase their inside counsel or to decrease it. Maybe it has to do with the cost of personnel or staff or health insurance. I'm not sure, but it definitely gets bigger and smaller, and that affects us. When there's more in house, we get less. When there's less in house, we get more.
Okay, and we talked a little earlier about how your firm saves costs for itself. How does your firm save costs for your corporate for customers, insurance companies and customers?
Well, we try to do things in a reasonable fashion. You know, we try not to do like silly things that are going to take a lot of time and then run up the costs. I know we have like our billing clerk is a very experienced woman with more than 40 years experience, so she knows what a fair legal bill is. She's capable of going through the bills and making sure that they appear reasonable, and if that means cutting a little of what we're trying to recover, she'll do that. But we also, we try to save costs. We don't unnecessarily, like, I'm not going to hire a physician and spend a couple of $1,000s to have him generate a report, even though that's the custom in practice, when I know I don't need a medical report in this case, or I don't need two, let's say.
Okay, and so several factors. These factors go into each file as you assess it to determine how can you deliberately keep a cost down. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. See, like getting back to the physical exam, it's a knee-jerk reaction that if there's an accident, you need to set up a physical examination, but not necessarily. You have to think about, like, maybe I have such a strong liability defense, I don't need a physical exam. Maybe the treatment is completely over with, and the plaintiff's doctors are. I'll accept what the plaintiff's doctors say, and I'd rather have that than pay for my own doctor to say the same thing. So like they're you have to think about each one, and instead of just knee jerk, like, send this out for a physical, just spend another $1,000, just spend another $1,000. Maybe just reviewing a film, which is more economical, or reviewing the records, is a stronger medical defense than sending a person physically to go see the doctor and pay the doctor for his time to do that.
And how about hiring practice? You mentioned someone's been many years at the company, the billing clerk, I think you said. How has hiring changed in your tenure in the firm?
Well, obviously, when when our firm expanded, we have to hire more people because if you have more professionals, you need more support staff. And then if we shrink, we need less. But because of the fact that we have these very experienced billing clerk and our two secretaries, they do the job and they know how to do it and they do it efficiently. So we don't need. They can do the job of two secretaries, and we just have one of them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Sure. How long have some of these people been with you?
Believe it or not, the three clerical staff has all been here at least 40 years, I would say. One maybe not quite 40, like 38.
Okay, and does that kind of loyalty from your staff translate to not only reduce your costs, but the costs you pass to your clients?
No doubt. Yes, it does. They're much more efficient at their jobs, and they see if there's a problem, they'll catch it, so a client won't be billed unnecessarily or billed, if they see a reason like, oh, maybe we don't need to do these, on this file anymore, okay, then let's stop doing it. We'll save them some money.
And now part of this business is not just your business aspect, but also the legal aspect as an attorney.
Correct.
And so have you found that the change in size from a mid-size to a small-size firm has been fulfilling in some regard?
Well, I find that there's less headaches in the smaller size firm, so that makes the job more fulfilling. Yes.
Okay, and how about just handling? Is the clients or the kind of cases basically similar?
Well, they're a little bit more complicated, I think, and we get like I think that a lot of our clients know that we're very experienced attorneys. So instead of sending me like 3 stupid, silly little cases, they'll send me one big case. And it's more complicated. There's only so many. You get tired of the same hit in the rear cases with the same injuries and the same doctors. Whereas if you have like an explosion case or like a property damage case or an unusual injury, that becomes more fulfilling because it becomes more interesting.
So you're handling higher end and more interesting cases.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it.
And how does your firm build relationships with outside people outside the firm, whether clients, customers,
Well, because we're a small firm, we don't have the opportunity to do a lot of entertaining. And it doesn't really work that well in this industry the way it used to work. But I just find that by remembering things about people, and I use this as an example, like I talk to an adjuster. I don't talk to her that much. I talk to her like a few times a year, like every couple of months. And she was telling me she was going to Sweden. So that was that. And a couple of months later, I was like, so how was your trip to Sweden? And she was so impressed that I remembered that she was going to Sweden because I hadn't talked to her in about 6 months. And, we had a very nice conversation. What's happening now in the business in the old days is if I'm doing work for State Farm, I'm dealing with a group of people who are all in Jericho, which is 5 miles away from here. Now, a lot of times I'm dealing with people in Buffalo, in Philadelphia area, in Florida, in Texas. So I try to talk to these people because I can tell. You can tell by the mailing addresses. You can tell by the zip code. I mean, not zip codes, area codes of the phone. And I'll say something like, so, the 716, are you up by Buffalo? Yeah, I am. That was a nice win against the Kansas City Chiefs last weekend, and they're like, oh yeah, that was, or same thing, like wasn't too Dallas Cowboys didn't do too good last week, well, actually they did win, but that kind of thing, and that helps build relationships because then the next time the guy talks to you, he'll say, hey, so how about those Cowboys, or something like that.
So it sounds like you're saying technology has helped you expand geographically as well as make more personal contact with people.
No, that's not. No, what's happened is in the industry, because of technology, it's not made me expand, but the insurance companies now have their people, like they're not all necessarily based in the same geography. They may be, State Farm. We don't do work for State Farm, so I don't really know. But I do believe that they might have some people from upstate now, or in Allstate. We have a lot of people in Texas. Chubb, I get people from Florida. I get. There's another Allstate group comes from up by Buffalo. I have another carrier that they're all in Philly.
Okay.
So,
And so, last question, which is a little unique for the interview, but do you find that your professional career has reflected your faith in any manner?
well, I think it has, and the reason is that lawyers are required to be ethical and honest, and I think that when you have when you come from a strong faith, I went to Catholic grammar school, Catholic high school, and Catholic law school. Not that that matters, but you just have a good strong foundation, so it makes it easier for me to be honest and ethical. So I do think it has influenced it.
Thanks for your time, Mike.
You're welcome, Robert.